The beauty about life is that we all have got a choice as to how we want to portray ourselves to the world or how we want to show up. And I always ask my question, if I were a commodity like, say, for example, gold, or I was diamonds, or I was oil, how much price would I put upon myself? Hi there, my name is Mutaki Tlalele, your partner in education and empowerment. And please join me as I would like to share with you three things that I think you need to consider when it comes to creating value around yourself. Please click on the link below before we dive deeper into the subject. Think about it. I believe that everything out there has got a value. We know there are values, the value that we place on the house, the value that we place on the car. There's also value that is placed on players as they move from one team to the next. But the difference, as far as the question that I'm posing, is the value that you place on yourself and on your soul. And I want to believe that if you are somebody who really appreciates and loves themselves, there is no way that you're going to put a price on yourself, because you as a person and your soul are so priceless. So let's think about it. As I said at the beginning, the way you come across is how you invite the world to treat yourself. So that is the value that you put upon yourself. And if you really want to become the greatest version of yourself, there are three things that I'm going to share with you that are going to help you define your own value. Let's start at the beginning. The first one is about how you view and talk to yourself. Think about it. Every day, most of us, when we wake up, we usually go to the mirror. We look at ourselves in the mirror, and sense tells me that you've got to love what you see in the mirror. But unfortunately, some people do not love what they see in the mirror. And if, let's say, you don't love your nose, you don't love your ears, you don't love your head, what are you going to do about it? That's a question that you need to ask yourself. Okay, some people might argue and say, those who've got money can go under the knife and change how they look. Definitely, maybe some people can do that, but how many people can afford that? And no judgment. I'm not going to offer my opinion on people who would go under the knife. It's their choice. But I'm talking to the majority of people who might not have a choice. The only gift that you have is the gift of life. And the life that God has given to you comes with how you look. It comes with the nose that you don't like. It might come up with the legs that you don't like. But at the end of the day, you are a gift and you've got value to add to the earth. So what I'm saying is that if you value yourself, you start by loving the person that you are. There is no way that you're going to exchange yourself to any other person. Now, what we do as a people, sometimes we go out there and try to compete with other people. And that's what makes our dreams not to be realized. So love yourself first, compete yourself, and appreciate who you are. So as you stand in front of the mirror on a daily basis, ask yourself a question. Are you a person who puts yourself down? Are you the person who tramples upon you, the person in the mirror? Or are you your own cheerleader? Are you able to stand up and say, and give yourself a high five and appreciate what you see in front of you? Because what is in front of you is not going to change. It is going to be a scene that you see on a daily basis. Just like when you replay a movie, you are going to be with you every time. Just using the metaphor of a shadow. During the day, when you move an ounce, your shadow will follow you. Whether it's at night or not, and you don't see your shadow, you are there with yourself. And that's what I would like you to encourage, that value starts with you. It starts with how you see yourself. And once you become comfortable about you and how you look, and appreciate yourself, then your self-esteem, your self-acceptance, your self-worth starts to skyrocket because you appreciate who you are. So I would say to you, that is the first thing that you need to do. But now we spoke about the object of the mirror because that's what we use to look at yourself in the morning. But there's another mirror which I call an internal mirror, which says inside yourself, what type of talk, what type of conversation are you having with yourself? And is it a conversation that is building you? So you need to take time, step back, and have the right conversation with yourself so that whatever the conversation that is happening inside of you can radiate energy to the outside. And in that way, you will start to have a balance between the inside and the outside world. And immediately as there's a disjuncture between the outside and the inside world, then we are going to have problems about issues of self awareness. So I'm challenging you to look at yourself and also the language that you speak to yourself. And in that way, you are going to start to appreciate the invaluable person that you are. Let's jump into the second one. And the second one is about the non negotiables. If you really want to create value around yourself, and please excuse me about the noise around me, this thing is a topic that was burning inside of me, and I said, I'm not going to create a perfect world. I'm going to make this video where I am. So please excuse the noise. But then let's go to the subject, the second subject, which is the non negotiables. Um, as human beings, we will always be conflicted. There will be some conflicting desires that we experience. That we might be torn between two things that we need to do at certain points in our lives. There would also be some temptations that are thrown to us on a daily basis. But how we survive those temptations and conflicting desires is as a result of the value system that we have created around ourselves. And that is very, very important because your values are going to anchor the person that you are so that you can ride through the waves, so that you can deal with the challenges that life will throw at you. And when it comes to non negotiables, those are the things that we say, I'm not going to compromise. These are the things that I'm going to stick to. And probably you might stand back and say, I know people who said never say never, but they ended up doing certain things. And hence we're saying your value should be so strong, so deep, to a point that you are able to withstand the winds, the cold that will be brought by life itself. And let's look at the issue of non-negotiables around at least a few areas. Let's start with the business area. I remember there was a point where my business was going through some of the challenges. And I don't know how God has created this life. It's like when you are beset with problems, a lot of temptations that appear as solutions will always come your way. And let me narrate this story for you. I remember this particular time. I was sitting at home. There was no guarantee of income coming that month, and I was worried as to how am I going to survive this month. And as life would have it, a lady that I used to work with had introduced me to a business partner some 3 weeks prior. And this guy happened to call me that night. He said, "Hey man, um, there's a company in Midrand that is IT based. They are looking for service providers. So the idea is that tomorrow you just go to them, you present your business, you present your offering, and then from there, if they like you, there's still a process that is unfolding. They are seeing a few service providers, and if they like your service, you will be on their database." Prepared myself that night, and then the next morning I was down to Midrand presenting at this company. It took almost 2 hours, an hour or so after presenting, as I was on the highway back to my house. And this guy called me and he said, "Hey, you won't believe. These guys say they love what you presented. They just love your energy and how you come across. And at that moment, I said, "Oh," and I was also excited. And we left the conversation there. It didn't take another 45 minutes. He called me and said, "Hey, they want you to deliver emotional intelligence." But at that point, I need to be honest with you, I never thought about. But he said we are presenting so that, and there are other providers that are coming through. If not mistaken, he has said over 3 days at the time. But why are they moving with such speed? But at that point, I never had issues. I was just excited that, oh, I'll be delivering emotional intelligence to the executive team of this company. And later that night, I prepared the presentation. I mean, the code and everything. And then the next morning, this guy calls me and he says, "Please, before you submit the proposal, let's talk about the costing. What have you charged them?" And I gave my price in terms of what I charge as far as dealing and facilitating for executive leaders in organizations. And at that moment, this guy said, "No, but I will finalize the price." And I stood back a little bit. I asked him questions to say, what is happening here? Why should you be the one who finalizes the prices? And the long story short, I dug deeper into what I wanted to understand. And then I started realizing that there's a ring, there's a circle. And actually, there were no other bidders who were coming through to present their company. So that is why things were happening at the speed of light. But at that moment, I stood back because one of the fundamental things that I have always liked and believed about myself is that Botaki Hlalele walking into his house, Botaki Hlalele walking into a friend's house, and Botaki Hlalele stepping into a business is the same person. I am the same brand. So if I compromise my brand at home, it's equally compromised when I go to business and vice versa. And I said, but whose brand is being put forward? This is my brand. And seemingly you are not following the right procurement procedures in this company. And long story short, I decided not to go ahead with that deal. And probably someone listening to this would say, "Hey man, you are holier than thou. There are people who have done things. We are not here to fix the world." I know that, but I'm here to fix myself, and I'm here to stick to my own value system. And I decided that that is not how I was going to run the business. And let me tell you, when you make such decisions, there will be consequences, and the consequences are hurtful because it means that that month I went on without getting a salary or a payment towards my account. But it's a choice that I decided to do because it is linked to the value that I want to create and how I want to show in life. So this is just an example around business that I wanted to share with you. We can make another example in terms of romantic relationships or even platonic relationships and ask you, who are you in that type of relationship? What type of relationships are you looking for? Are you in relationships where you grow, where you are mutually helping each other to reach your goals? Or are you in a relationship where you are a giver and somebody's just a taker? So people create or they take from you because that's what you have allowed them to do. That's how you presented them. That is the value that they see in you. And at the end of the day, when you stay in such relationship and you are the person that gets depleted, who does not enjoy being part of that relationship. So ask yourself, what value are you bringing into the relationship? What value is the other person bringing? Is this value that you are bringing into the relationship reciprocated in the process? Because you are the only one who is going to answer that question. I know a lot of people, some of the people that have stayed in marriages that do not work, and they say, they are staying because of children, and that is a deeper conversation, and I'm prepared to do a video on that because I've gone through that experience myself. But at the end of the day, Who are you becoming? Is your cup full and overflowing to a point that you can give to children? Who do you become? What value are you losing in staying in a relationship that is not working? So the other element, as far as the non-negotiables, and you can define for yourself what are some of the non-negotiables as far as you are concerned. And the biggest one of them is around money. How does money shape you? How does money impact you as a person? When you have money, what type of person do you become? When you don't have money, what type of person do you also become? Because we know the energy and the power that money has, and we know when you don't have money how it feels like for those that have gone through the experience, and I believe the majority of people have gone through the experience. But then I always define this through the two angles that I say each black family has. As black families, as we grow, there is always that person who is blessed that will go to university or get a good job, and then they come and they lift their families. But then some of them, what happens is that there are two directions that this person takes. One can either be one of those people that listens to other family members who do not have much or who cannot put much financially on the table, or they can decide to become this difficult, controlling freak just because they've got money. However, there's an uncle who says, there's an aunt who says, even if I don't have money, this is Hlalele's place. This is Tile's place. This is Dlamini's place. And here at Dlamini, at Hlalele, we work this way. And if you are not going to abide by how we are building this family system, then keep your money. But then you've got other families, and then you've got an uncle, you've got an aunt that says, because you've got money, you can send them from pillar to post. You can even send some of your uncles to the shops because you've got money. All of a sudden, you no longer are able to walk to the shop because you have got money. So what I'm trying to say as far as money is concerned and the value you create upon yourself, I'm saying the fact that you don't have money is not a license for people to trample upon you. The fact that you've got money is not a license to trample upon other people. So I'm just going to use those three examples of business, relationships, whether be romantic or platonic, as well as the issue of money. And then you can decide for yourself what are some of the non-negotiables that you have that you are not going to put out there and compromise yourself. We can even talk about your body itself. What are those things that you say, for me, is non-negotiable? I'm not going to engage in things that steals my physical joy, my mental joy, my spiritual joy. What are those non-negotiables? Because those things define your value, which I've already indicated. I have a strong conviction that your soul is priceless and you don't have to sell yourself to the highest bidder. Let's look in conclusion at the last element. And the last element is about how do you create a value? The value that you put out there into the world. We all have got this value that you can put out to the world. But until you deal with the first aspect, which is how you view and how you talk to yourself, you are not going to realize that value. So you need to start at the top there, where you look at how you view and talk to yourself. Now, when it comes to the value that you put out into the world, you don't have to be a Nelson Mandela, you don't have to be a Martin Luther King, but you can start small where you are. And it does not even involve money. It can involve the time that you set aside to assist in just cleaning your street. That's the value that we are putting out there. If you are good in a particular subject, and we know that our African schools, children are struggling. Some of them do not have good facilities, and you spend your time teaching children math, science, or whatever subject. That's how you put in your value out there. If you have time to go into a church and teach at Sunday school, or whatever forms of classes that are there in a church, that is how you give yourself out there. So value is not only related to money, but value is related to how you view yourself, how you want to be seen to the world, because how you are seen and appear to the world is how the world will treat you. And lastly, it's about the peace of mind that you create because of the decisions and choices that you make as a result of how you view yourself. Click on the link below and subscribe so that we can continue to advance education and empowerment to others, because this is one of the critical things that can help us to become the greatest version of ourselves, but also help us to grow as a nation. In Dreams Made Possible, we always say Life 101 conversations for a great life. And until we meet in the next episode where we share this conversation, I'll see you next time.